Faji. Daktari Ekuru, good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you. How's your week?
See you, bana.
Happy to see you again.
See you too. How was your week?
At least you survived. Nasikia watu wanapigwa makaka.
Naona
Good to
Muluka
see you.
pia.
Look at me. He's here. At least. You guys survived the week.
Sina noma.
Yeah, it's been a very crazy and funny week, I must say.
Yes.
And I hope we'll chambua some of those issues. I hope also the listeners have been watching and mesmerized like many of us, and surprised and angry. But again, I was reading a tweet this morning and someone was saying to my response, I was telling Kenyans, who will actually save this country when leaders are behaving badly?
Sure.
And somebody told me, well, that's what Kenya is, so why are we even surprised? So I don't know what people think out there, whether we should actually accept this sorry situation, sorry state of affairs, and say that it is who we are. But because I don't think it's who we are, because bad things cannot define us, you know. So yeah, I mean, there's a level of desperation actually that's kicking in, and acceptance that the norm that is Kenya is the theatrics that we are treated to, especially this week when we saw right from the president to the leaders down there and to the wananchi. I mean, just adopting a certain negative narrative, especially that of violence. And it's clear now that this dynasty versus Asla thing has to be somewhat defeated by all means, because I think it's endangering the rest of us as a people.
All right. What are some of the things that you picked from the events of the good to see you, BARRACK MULUKA? We've lost you for the last 2 weeks. Pole sana, najua ulikuwa na msiba. Nataka kuambia pole sana. Natumai ya kwamba umepoa. Tulikuwa tunaombea kabisa. Unajua sisi hapa ni mabishop. So tukiamka asubuhi tunapiga la hiyo tunaomba tatu tulikwambia. I hope you guys are doing well now.
Tunashukuru kuwa na mabishop. na msikiza rafiki yangu hapa hivi Dr. EKURU AUKOT na wewe pia na wengineo. Na ni furaha kuweza kuwa hapa hivi tuweze kuchanganua mambo na kuyaweka katika muktadha mwafaka.
Kiswahili kimekuwa kingi kweli.
Jamii nilisomea kutukana saa chini ya miti. Kuna Kiswahili ilikuwa inaingia nusu, ingine inapita.
Lakini jambo la kushangaza ni kwamba wao hao ambao Kiswahili kilikuwa chaingia nusu, Kiingereza nacho kikaingia zaidi na
kwa wingi.
Kitakambi pale.
Anasema ikakita mizizi.
Sasa tunashangaa sasa, ingawa Kiswahili hunitatiza, Kiingereza nacho hunitatiza zaidi.
Kweli Kiingereza cha kutatiza wewe kweli?
Mbona kililetwa kwa merekebu.
Nasikia wengine ilikuwa
unajua pia lugha ni mazoea.
Merekebu ya ubepari.
So hii pia ni lugha ya ubepari.
Lugha ya ubepari tu na ina wenyewe.
Hata unaweza ulimi bana. Kiswahili kigumu.
Lugha ni practice.
Hata tujaribu kidogo. Nashukuru kukuona sana BARRACK MULUKA. Sijui ni lipi ambayo umeona ambayo imefanyika kwenye wiki ambayo unataka kuitaja kabla hatujaenda kwenye kazi ya leo.
Unajua hili taifa letu ni taifa ambalo alilisimulia Ustadh Shaban bin Robert, ni taifa la kusadikika. Na kwa hivyo hili taifa la kusadikika, hakuna chochote ambacho unishangaza mimi kama BARRACK. Ninayoyaona wakati huu nishayaona. Haya ambayo yanaendelea wakati huu, hii misukumo, mizozano, malumbano, na hata kujaribu kurejesha nyuma gurudumu la katiba, ni vitu ambavyo nimewahi kuviona. Hakuna kitu kigeni. Kitu kinacho nishangaza tu ni kwamba vizazi vya baadaye navyo pia vinafanya mambo ambayo vizazi vya mbeleni vilifanya. Labda hilo ndio lingeweza kunishangaza kidogo kwa kiasi, kwa sababu hawa ni watu ambao wamesoma tu, wana elimu ya juu. Unawapata wanarushiana matone makubwa machafu ya maneno. Unawapata wanarushiana makonde makali hata katika sehemu za mazishi. Vitu ambavyo vinashangaza, na wao wanaitwa waheshimiwa. Wale wanaofanya hivi vitu sio raia akina yahe tu kawaida. Watu waheshimiwa, na mwenyewe akijitambulisha kwako anakuambia kwamba mimi ni mheshimiwa fulani wa fulani. Hata achi wewe umheshimu. tambue kama mheshimiwa. Yeye mwenyewe yuajitangaza kuwa yeye ni
mheshimiwa.
Mambo anayofanya
hayana heshima. Ekuru, ile jina mheshimiwa ilitoka wapi na inafaa nani haswa?
Unajua, mwanzo kabisa nafikiri jinsi Muluka alivyosema, kwa kawaida huwezi kujitambua kwa mtu ambaye labda hakujui kwa jina la title fulani, kwa mfano kama ile ya kusema mimi ni mheshimiwa fulani. Kwa kawaida utasema mimi jina langu ni so and so, nafanya kazi sehemu fulani, ama mimi ndio na mwakilishaji eneo la bunge la mahali fulani. Lakini kusema ati my name is Honorable EKURU AUKOT, it's not even the norm. In fact, even when you read about parliamentary democracy, the title honorable, sometimes you are referred to when you're on the floor of the house submitting, but outside the floor of the house you are just an ordinary. You introduce yourself as EKURU AUKOT, I'm the member of parliament representing constituency X, but I will not say I am Honorable EKURU AUKOT. Hiyo ni kama kujipendekeza. Wacha watu wakupee hiyo heshima. Na ukiangalia mara nyingi katika nchi yetu, kwa kusema kweli, ukiangalia hale masahibu ambaye viongozi wanatuonyesha, ile haibu ambayo wanatuonyesha, hakuna heshima hapo. Kwa mfano, kwa nini uende kwa mazishi ya mtu mkaanza kuzusha, kupigana, kutukanana, na nyinyi mnajiita tuheshimiwa? Ama unakuwa introduced as let's now ask Honorable so and so to say hello to people. And then the next thing you hear from these honorable members is just
it's not honorable.
Insult. It's dishonorable. It's just insults, abuses, and then you wonder, okay, so what is honorable about this individual? And secondly, is that really even the right forum? Instead of going to condole with the families, or instead of going to pray, you take politics to the pulpit, you take politics to the funeral. That's how low we have sunk. And maybe, I don't know, I wish Kenyans could be listening to us and prick their own conscience, that when you are sending off your beloved one, please don't invite politicians.
Lakini wanakuja tu kwa sababu unajua matanga si kitu ambacho watu hualikwa kwa njia rasmi. Lakini nafikiri tungefikia hapo kwamba watu wapewe barua na kadi za kualika watu
kama sherehe tu, kama
ama Muluka, ama unaweza kuja ndio, ama unaweza kuja, lakini usipewe microphone. Manake wacha tuache ifikoe tu ni ibada ya kanisa inafanyika,
hiyo microphone. Kwa sasa unapewa ya nini?
Ama ikuwe basi mtu akianza kuongea lugha ambayo haifai ananyang'anywa microphone. Natumai ya kwamba inafaa pia tulete tabia nzuri kwenye mazishi.
Kwa sababu pia wahusika, hasa wale ambao wamefiwa, nao pia wanachangia kwa kiasi. Unaweza kukataa tu na kusema hapa kwetu hamtalete huo uchafu. Lakini ni kama kwamba tumekubali kuwa kutakuwa sehemu katika hiyo ratiba, kutakuwa sehemu ya sarakasi.
Because wajua mimi maoni yangu pia bitoke na Muluka ni kwamba tumefika mahali ya kwamba mazishi sio kumzika mwenda zake. We have just abused the whole all arrangement of sending off a departed, a deceased person. So I think it's part of I think I don't want to accept that it's part of our DNA as a society, because I think it's bad things, it's bad manners, it's indiscipline. And I think for me, going forward, we should probably just say, in funeral services, we strictly keep it to the tradition of sending off a departed person, no politics. I mean, there are many people. I've attended several, funeral services, and the families have been very firm that no politics, and they are strict, no politics. In fact, I remember going to the funeral service of my learned friend, senior Evans Monari, and the father, before he died, was very categorical. No politics. And indeed, I mean, the uncles, the family, even while introducing guests, they said no politics. They are very clear, categorical. And then you could not speak for more than, I think, 3 minutes. So I think even though now, you see, it's the leadership of this country that has actually made it the norm that you go to these functions,
We must politics.
and in church, and then you play politics, and sometimes completely unrelated to the event of the day.
And it's even a waste of time as a resource.
Yes.
When you find a whole nation's leadership assembled at one funeral, sitting there for 12 hours, sometimes the entire cabinet is there, the head of state is there, the entire opposition is there, everybody who should be running industry and business is there. You start asking, who is running the country?
Exactly.
Can we quantify that time that is wasted there?
Yeah.
The energy that is lost there? Na hivi ni vitu ambavyo tukienda mbele vifanyike kwenye kanisa, watu wafanye sala zao, misa za wafu zikisha fanyika, familia ipewe nafasi ya kuweza kumpa mkono wa buriani mtu ambaye amewaondokea.
Alafu sasa tuende kwa maziko na tumalizane. Haya, lakini basi tukizungumzia hata mambo ya mazishi, jana kulikuwa na makumbusho ya mzee Moi aliyetuacha, ambaye alikuwa rais wa Kenya, na kuliona kwamba kulikuwa na siasa mingi kuliko hata mazungumzo ambayo yalikuwa nafaa unajua, it's an honor for me. Makumbusho ni kama ni heshima kwa aliyetuacha, na mazungumzo yafaa yazunguke kwa yale mambo ambayo alifanya na kumpa heshima pale. Lakini uliona kwamba siasa ilikuwa mingi kuliko mazungumzo ya mzee. Na hapo ndio viongozi walikuwa, rais wa nchi alikuwa, viongozi wa upinzani ama serikali mbadala, lakini siasa tupu ndio ilikuwa pale. Sijui kama uliangalia yale mambo yaliendelea pale pia.
Ojo, kwa kusema kweli Bitoke, maybe labda kabla tumalize tu kwa hii mambo, because mimi hizo sarakazi za mazishi na manini, ndio umeona mimi mara nyingi, unless labda ni rafiki, mtu wa familia, hayo ndio mazishi mimi nahudhuria. Lakini ya mazishi ambayo kwa mfano watu wanaenda kwa sababu ya siasa, manake mara nyingi sana wanaenda kwa sababu ya siasa, sio sababu ati wanataka tu kuonekana, kujipendekeza kwamba walikuwa kwenye makumbusho ya Rais Moi. Na utaangalia wengine wao ambao wamejikimbiza pale, wamekimbia mbele, hata kwa wakati mzee alikuwa katika mamlaka, walikuwa na mtusi, wanamuita majina. So kuna ile too much pretense in our country, and for me, some of these people, you hear them say, oh, he was a great man. Yes, when the person was alive, they called the person all manner of names and everything. So there's too much pretense, in this country, and so I don't even bother to attend such funerals. I mean, I can recall the good deeds of a departed soul, and that for me is enough. I mean, I believe in the celebration of life. Let's celebrate the life, and because how come when somebody is alive you castigate this person, but when he's dead all of a sudden you pretend. Like as lawyers say, I mean, there is no property in a dead body. So the best thing that you can actually do to a dead person is to give them a good send off and a good burial, and that is it. And then you remember them. Keep their memory. But not to use the occasion of a deceased person to now try and I don't know.
Unajua ni kwa sababu hakuna gharama aliyo nayo mwanasiasa kwenye vitu kama hivyo ile ya usafiri, na kisha kwingineko atasema kwamba na niko na shilingi zangu 1500 hapa, 2000, 1000. Wale walio na hela kubwa kidogo alisema niko na 50,000. Lakini kuweza kuandaa kikao kama kile sio mchezo. Politicians should be able to mount their own meetings, their own rallies, their own town hall sessions and forums where they undertake those kinds of activities. Of course, historically, we know that this was a safety valve, an escape route during the days of one party rule in the country, when it was also difficult to find space for alternative conversations and alternative paradigms, and therefore people started using funerals and some intervals within church services to be able to pass messages. We succeeded in opening up the space for political pluralism, and nobody really stops you, although we have seen sometimes this government engaging in those bad habits of disrupting meetings and public rallies and gatherings. But those are the spaces that we must fight to protect. the spaces whose functioning is being disrupted and which we need to protect and respect sacrosanct occasions. A funeral, Daktari, without any pun intended, a funeral is a grave matter. And it must be allowed the sanctity of its gravity. It's a grave matter. You don't go there to abuse people. You don't go there. And I've even heard a politician saying things like, nitamshambulia kwa matanga. Wanazurura na kuangalia na kupekua kwenye majarida kuangalia nani ameaga. Wako na scouts. Kuna scouts
ambao wana scout kwa mazishi, wanatafuta mazishi.
Lakini pia nafikiria kuna jambo lingine la muhimu ambalo naona limezuka katika mambo ya mazishi. Ni kama kwamba mazishi yamekuwa ni kama tunafanyia biashara. You know, there is an element which, you know, funerals have been commercialized, and I think this what these politicians do, I mean, like, can I say, these uncouth politicians do, is that they are quick to say. So I think also now it's a challenge for our society generally to say, you know, yes, if you departed, you know, your loved one has died, you can consider either of two things: give them a proper private send-off, or in the event that, you know, maybe you are not able to give that send-off because there's too much ceremonies and during funeral service than even remembering what actually the deceased person did. You see a lot of too much expense, too much money. Sometimes I wish that money was collected to be given, say, to the family. But you can see a lot of money is being collected, a lot of ceremony, a lot of preparations just to send somebody. But you leave the family impoverished. I think for me it could be the other way around. But if given the opportunity, I will ban political speeches from funeral because I think it is disrespect of the deceased.
All right. Quickly moving forward, it looks like also burials have become places of endorsement. Depends on where the burial is. That is where presidential endorsements happen. If it happens in Western, the president is Mudavadi. If it happens in Eastern, President Kalonzo, Mutua. If it happens in Northeastern, it can be Duale. If it happens in your place, it can be Ekuru. You know. So I think these days burials have become places of political capital.
But you see, that is the dishonesty. That's the dishonesty, because how come you cannot endorse, say, Mudavadi or EKURU AUKOT in Nairobi or Muluka in Ukambani, but you wait for when it is in his region, in his village. That's when we say even the Luya community today.
We have decided. Now that we are burying,
and you can actually see the lingua is meant to massage the ego of that person who is seen to be from that region. Yeah, sure. So a lot of dishonesty.
Yeah, they are playing for the gallery. It is drama, and those endorsements have no premium.
Yes, that's true.
Premium at all. And personally, an endorsement from President Uhuru Kenyatta, especially as a sitting president, I would have a lot of problems with it. For a start, I don't think that there is much that I could look at his regime and say he has done a good job, and it is an assignment that I would like to continue, that I would want to take the baton from him and carry on with this relay. I see him as a thoroughly underperforming head of state and government, someone without even a sense of vocation. The things which Mike Mbuvi-Sonko has been saying have been very embarrassing. I would not expect a governor or a former governor to say that. But equally, some of the footage that has leaked through the cracks from Sagana, and
confirms.
You listen to the president on tape, and you just hold your head in your hands in grief, and that kind of endorsement, I would not place much premium on it. But beyond that, we are aware that in the case of Musalia Mudavadi, Musalia himself is now in permanent record as stating that in his biography, and I agreed that I participated in its production. The president visited him at that time when they were candidates or aspirants. In the morning. He has stated very clearly, walikuja kuniona asubuhi, which means they were sober, like those people we read of in the Acts of the Apostles.
You could be sober but hungover anyway.
you know, when we read the Acts of the Apostles, we read about the people who spoke in tongues in Jerusalem. And we are told it was in the morning. When you read what is called biblical exegesis, where you are now getting the interpretation and appreciation of that text, everything matters. It was in the morning. And Simon Peter told the doubters that you can see it is in the morning, so we cannot have taken any drinks, we are sober. And Mudavadi goes on to say, na wakakunywa chai na mandazi, kuonyesha kwamba they did not take alcohol or any other intoxicants. We have usually missed the point when Mudavadi tells us about hii story ya chai na mandazi. Kini chake ni kuonyesha kwamba these people were sober. And they presented a document which we signed. And after we had signed this document, hawa jamaa wakaenda, na baada ya siku 3 mmoja akawa anasema ni madimoni, mashetani ndio yalikuwa yamemwelekeza. Now if someone can disown a written, signed testament, promissory note, Dr. EKURU AUKOT, wewe ni mwanasheria, you can tell us about the import of things like those promissory notes. Ni za nini zimeandikwa na ameiruka? Je, itakuwa hii ambayo imetolewa kwenye matanga kando kando makaburi katika ule mori wa kutofurahishwa na matamshi ya watu wachache ambao wamezungumza hapo, ukisema na mimi ninaweza kusema kwamba basi huyu Bitok huyu ameshatawala. Kwa hivyo vitu kama hivyo havistahili na havina maana. Na hata unaposema kwamba huyu yuko endorsed, Rais Moi alimpendekeza Uhuru Kenyatta wakati fulani. Wakenya wakakataa.
Akakuwa na wakati mgumu sana.
So I'm still waiting for
what will happen after that.
For EKURU AUKOT, who was my candidate the last time. I hope he will be my candidate again.
There's something you've always mentioned, EKURU, as we chime in on that. You've always said that the only constant thing in politics is betrayal. Yesterday, in today's newspaper, the Star, it's saying that Uhuru's men are rooting for Mudavadi, Musalia Mudavadi. Where is Baba? Sorry. Where is Baba? Where does that leave Baba?
Well, one of the things about Kenyan politics is that from my experience so far, there's a lot of dishonesty. Even when people assemble together and express or pretend or project that they are together, there's always some hand-to-hand dealings going on. Bitok, I've tried to say in your show many times that I want us to distance ourselves from discussing personalities about in this country. I want us to discuss about Kenya and the problems about Kenya. Because the more we discuss about Raila, Suji Uhuru, Suji Ruto, Suji Nani, it's like we have actually surrendered the country to them. Yet this is a country of 48 million people going to 50 million right now. So there are betrayals in politics. There's a lot of dishonesty because one of the things about our politics that it's been commercialized. So sometimes people come into a political arrangement purely for commerce. That are how much can I make during this arrangement? And once you make that arrangement, the rest is pretense. For example, when again, at the risk of coming back to discussing personality, everybody knows that Raila Odinga is a de facto deputy president of this country, or is a co-president of Kenya, because of his association, President Uhuru, and even because of his conduct behavior. Now he's flying Air Force One, even to attend functions. So, and to hear, for example, someone like Raila say he is not in government, like I heard him say, I think it's trying to distance himself from the problems of
said
Jubilee.
that several times.
Several times. I mean, again, that's dishonesty, but no, it's the political dishonesty because these politicians know this is what Kenyans want to hear. So they're actually playing to the whims of Kenyans, what Kenyans want to hear, because for them that is the game they know best. But we all know that Raila entered into a commercial transaction with President Uhuru Kenyatta, and for me it was very simple, that Raila Odinga has been in politics for quite some time, has made inroads in government, even into agencies of government. So he's capable, for example, to unearth certain things and make a sitting government uncomfortable. So the genius of Jubilee government, even in their failing status, is that how do we bring this noisemaker into government so that we can continue with our slumber? And that's exactly as simple as that. So I can tell you this, they may not come out to openly to say, yes, there's a commercial transaction that took place. But we know in Kenyan politics, there was a commercial transaction that took place between President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga, and it was silenced. The consequence of that is that it killed democracy in Kenya. We no longer have a parliament that can check on the executive. We no longer have, for example, a Senate that can check on the executive. So we have compromised principles of accountability, transparency, and we have allowed impunity, because now the people who have been pretending to be opposition in this country are actually going into bed with the government of the day, and that's why government of the day is getting away with so many things. If we had a sensible opposition, we could be hearing. I mean, and I said this yesterday in one of my tweets. I hear many politicians complaining about President Uhuru Kenyatta, that his conduct is unbecoming that of a president. That, for example, in Sagana, he actually incited violence. He acknowledged that, yes, we can also be violent.
And we have been violent.
We've been violent. That during my time when I was young, there are certain things I could do. That yes, uliona. So the president was actually cheering. He was actually institutionalizing impunity. But you will not hear, and you will not see any member of parliament who has a machinery under the constitution to either bring a motion of censure or impeachment of the president. Why? Because the people claiming to be opposition are actually in government, and government knows very well what the opposition needs. They need just facilitation. And you see some of Ruto's some of the Ruto's rally, I think last year or year before. People are being paid to attend, and you even saw MPs actually fight physically, beat each other because somebody took, I think, their portion of attendance fees, allowances. So it's really no longer about leadership in this country. It's I think become a jungle actually. Probably the best way I can describe it.
Since we're already there, that was something that was coming. In the president's speech in Sagana, what are your thoughts on that? Do you feel uncomfortable as a Kenyan that the statements that came from the president?
I think before we even get to Sagana, we must begin with the address that he gave a few days earlier on a number of radio channels in his mother tongue.
Yeah.
And where he locked out the rest of us. I felt alienated by my president. I need someone with a good legal mind to advise me whether that is good, whether it is acceptable, that a president addresses a national issue, because the president is supposed to address national issues. And he can only zero in to specific spaces when there are crises. And those crises get a definition, actually, of national emergencies. When they happen even in isolated corners of the country, they become national emergencies. And even Parliament itself can suspend its business to discuss a matter of national importance that has happened in one corner of the country. So when my president goes to speak in mother tongue, to an exclusive population in a language that bars the rest of us from the message, I have cause to start feeling very worried and even afraid as a Kenyan. But then he goes to Sagana, And what is filtering through the press is that he's saying, I'm going to be part of the succession. Whose succession? His succession. And he's saying the reason he wants to be part of that succession is not so much that he leaves behind a better country. He's saying to that community, that parochial environment, that I want to leave you in a competitive place against the rest of the country. So why should I trust this kind of president even during his own tenure, if that is the philosophy that informs his tour of duty as my head of state? Beyond that, our constitution, and I'm privileged to be sitting here with one of the people who are involved with
the constitution,
midwifing of this constitution. Our constitution provides 2 terms for a successful president. 1 term, and he can come back to ask for validation and to be given an extra term. And during that term, he focuses or she focuses on delivery of the promissory agenda that was given during the campaign cycle. But here is a head of state who behaves like the proverbial dog that is carrying a bone on its mouth and it's crossing a river. And in the river it sees the reflection. And it says, let me not deal with this bone that's on my mouth. I want to deal with the other bone.
In the water.
In this other dog here. So it leaves this bone, and this bone falls in the water. It's trying to wrestle with another dog. That dog is its own reflection. And in the end, everything is lost. So President Uhuru Kenyatta sits at the risk of losing both this tenure and the next one. And finally, gentlemen, in these things, whether you like it or not, the last time I said he was a lame duck president, and my friend EKURU AUKOT said, does he even have legs? But he's a lame duck.
Is it even a duck?
He's a lame duck president.
A duck without legs.
He is on the home stretch, and he doesn't have to like it. He doesn't even have to agree that he's a lame duck, but he is. He is in zile zinaitwa dakika za lala salama. Apende, asipende, watu wataanza kufikiria juu ya viongozi wengine wa baadaye. They may be the people who are hobnobbing around with him, the ones who criticize him today. They say, uchumi ni mbaya. Say, hii serikali inakopa sana. Hii serikali iko corrupt. But then they still go to him and say, inataka unipe endorsement. They may be those ones. They may be the same ones, a very curious opposition that says, huyu deputy president wako akusupport. I expect that the deputy president should work with the president and for the president. But I don't expect that it's the duty of people in the opposition to be the ones to tell the president that huyu mtu akusaidii kuongoza, mweke kando, msukume kando. What you do when you see a deputy president who is disenchanted with the president and you're in the opposition is what Mwai Kibaki did. You tell that deputy president, kuja hapa, utu support, utuunge mkono. Kuja hapa, tutafute hii kitu na wewe. Lakini wewe unaenda hapo kama kiruka njia, unajipendekeza hapo, unasema mimi niko better than huyu, nataka unipe endorsement.
Naomba unioe.
Naomba unioe, hata kama utaki kunioa sana.
Nioe kidogo tu.
Nakubali unioe kidogo tu. Ndio vitu ambavyo tunaviona, na unakuta watu relics from the past in I'm sorry, but people are free to turn out as they wish. But I've learned from the Americans that it's also in order to say that some of them are in ill-fitting suits and they are looking unkempt, and they are gathering together relics from the political past and craving photo opportunities, which they then say, we are sasa hapa hivi tunaenda kuona family ya Nyachai, tuko hapa hivi tunaenda. They are not driven by any compassion for the Nyachai family. Kujipendekeza tu hapa na pale matangani na kufika hapo na some gangsters. It may be those people who are going to take over. It may be William Ruto. It may be EKURU AUKOT. It may be Mkhisa Kitui. It may be Cyrus Jirongo. It may be even Bitok. It may be somebody we don't know.
Even yourself, Muluka.
Hata mimi. Never count me out. Never count me out. Never rule me out completely.
Yeah.
But the long and short of this is that muda wa Rais Uhuru Kenyatta, His Excellency Rais Uhuru Kenyatta, unaishia. Apende, asipende.
But let me put it more, let's be more brutally honest here. President Uhuru Kenyatta last week, because he is nojeni wiki katiba wiki
kabisa
naongea mambo ya sheria. The truth for the matter is the president actually committed some offenses known to law. He actually incited violence. He accepted there was violence. He knew, he even concealed information. If it was an ordinary Kenyan, you'll be summoned by DCI to explain, what did you know about what happened? You know, that's an offense known to law. But we have allowed political class to get away with offenses. And the problem is, and let's just be honest, be talk here. It's, as they say, it's not my saying, that fish starts rotting from the
head.
From the head. Yeah, as the truth. So what we are seeing from the top leadership from this country in terms of commission of offenses, violations of the rule of law, is actually being replicated down there. So at the end of the day, nobody can moralize the ordinary Kenyan and tell the ordinary Kenyan that you have broken the law. What that makes ordinary Kenyan becomes a victim of a brutal police force. Listen, I'm not holding any brief for Mike Sonko, and maybe we'll come to discuss some of those issues. But look at the way Mike Sonko has been treated. You know, Mike Sonko confessed publicly that together with the current PS for Interior, Kibisho, they actually organized violence. They organized destruction of property to create an impression that it was ODM supporters who were actually, causing this violence. They were all summoned to DCI, and one was kept there up now, is still in committee maximum prison, but another one was left. You can actually see how the violation, violating the law by one person is treated with with all the niceties, and by another person is treated rather brutally. And this is a message that cascades down to the ordinary mwananchi. And that's why today, Bitok, even if you're driving a jalopy on the road, on our roads, and you hit accident, maybe hit a boda guy, they will all come to you. All of a sudden, they will just surround you, and you will hear them say, "We're in a dynasty. Amegonga hustler." And why? Because this narrative is driven from the very top. The narrative of hustler versus dynasty. It has now gone into accepting the commission of offenses. We saw what happened in Kisii between Simba Arati, the member for parliament for Dagoretti North, and Osoro. Sylvanus Osoro. They fought publicly. If it was you and me today fighting with Muluka, we will be accused of disturbing public peace.
Alafu tunapigana mbele ya deputy president.
Exactly.
Na former prime minister.
Yes. You will be charged with disturbing public order. You will actually charge. There's an offense called affray.
Affray.
When you're fighting. So nobody. But look what has happened to those MPs. We've had someone like Sifuna, and I want you to invite Sifuna here one time. really
Friday. You'll call him next Friday.
make very horrible statements out there. But he's hiding behind his Baba. Nobody will touch Sifuna because now they're in coalition, they're in bed with Jubilee. But others, so what we have seen like this 1 week is the selective application of the rule of law on certain individuals or on certain regions, you know. And this is very sad for our country. And the saddest thing is that it is coming from the very top. You hear this language from the president. You hear this language from former prime minister. You hear this language from members of parliament.
In fact, to tie it up and now just push it into the net, because Aukot said he was sending it, but I see he's hovering around the goal area.
So it needs to be sent to the net.
It needs to be pushed into the net. Ni kwamba Sonko ametuambia, acha niseme kwa Kiswahili kwa sababu Kiingereza kinanitatiza kidogo. Sonko amekiri hadharani na kusema kwamba sisi na fulani wa fulani tulikuwa tunachangia ghasia, tunafanya mipango ya ghasia ili ionekane kwamba ni ODM na NASA wamefanya.
Ni kama sasa kwenda kupeana ripoti kwa polisi ya kwamba kuna uhalifu ilifanyika na mimi na mtu fulani tulikuwa tunafanya.
Lakini alikuwa akisema kwa njia kama ya kujidai na kisha kama mwanagenge ambaye anaondoka au amepupurushwa kutoka katika genge ambalo linaanza kusambaratika. Na wanagenge huwa namna hivyo tu, hata kule mafia huwa ni vivyo hivyo tu. Akina Al Capone wa kule Marekani na kwingineko wanafanya vitu vya aina hiyo. Wanapotengana unasema what you used to do. Sasa huyu ameshasema tulikuwa tunafanya hivi, kisha a few days later Mheshimiwa Rais katika muktadha ambao ni muktadha rasmi, kikao rasmi, ameitisha cha viongozi wenye upeo wa juu kabisa kutoka eneo alikozaliwa yeye, anatoa kauli na kutamka na kusema kwamba kama una mawe usifikiri ni wewe peke yako una mawe, hata yule mwingine ana mawe, sisi sote tuna mawe, na hata mimi msinione vivi hivi. Hebu rejelea hapo tena. Na hata mimi msinione vivi hivi, ni vile tu sasa tumeanza kuzeeka. Nilikuwa mkali sana. Anasema nini? Anasema nini?
Rais alisema hivyo, hakuwa na tofauti yote kati ya confession yake na ile ya Sonko. There was no difference.
There's no difference.
Because all were confessions.
Yes.
Of what we did in the past.
What we did in the past.
So,
and he needs now to give us a full raft
of
what he did in the past. Including some very sensitive spaces which for the time being I'll not go into, but which we do not need to leave to much imagination. Atuambie ni vitu vipi ambavyo alifanya alipokuwa mchanga na alikuwa ni shupavu sana katika mambo ya magenge.
So actually, I think that's very that's actually the right interpretation, because what Sonko said of what he did is the reason why he was summoned to DCI. But the president also said the same thing, but of course in different contexts, that even I did certain things during my time, and he referred to crude.
So they both were confessions.
Both were confessions. So we should expect, maybe right now, because the president cannot be tried for criminal offenses while in office, at least we should see, for example, a motion of censure or impeachment in parliament. You know, Sonko is being victimized for confessing in the same way the president confessed. So the rule of law here is applying selectively. You know, it's brutalizing one Kenyan and leaving the other.
Even look at the same thing now from a legal point of view, because leo ni sheria wiki. We've seen one criminal who was confessed that yes, ule mtu ambaye aliuliwa mwaka fulani ni mimi na fulani tulimuua. Na Kwa hivyo kwa kisheria, mimi si mwana sheria, lakini natumai ya kwamba basi tunakuwa na two criminals, tunakuwa na wahalifu wawili. Yule ambaye ameleta confession na yule ambaye ametajwa. Ambaye sasa kwa hii in this context it should be Kibicho, because the confession was between Kibicho and Sonko saying we did it, the two of us. I expected that maybe since Sonko is in, probably then Kibicho should also have been in, so he can remove himself. They can give evidence and say that this guy is lying, I was not part of it, or I'm not aware of what he's talking about. Sonko has decried and he has said that he's being targeted. The treatment that he has received, because I believe that first of all, the bail, this guy, Kenyan, should be given bail in 24 hours. Yeah. What are the legalities and the illegalities within the way this guy has been handled from a point of view?
There's a lot of illegalities. Of course, there's a selective application of the rule of law. The Constitution is absolutely clear. When you're arrested, you have got a right to bail. You have to bail. But you see, yes, we have also seen in the past other permanent secretaries being charged and actually relieved of their duties. There are so many of them. We can't even begin to, to count them. The question really should be asking, why is Kibicho so special? Why isn't DCI also actually arresting Kibicho or preferring any charges against Kibicho? Because one person who is now in custody has confessed, whatever I did it with this person. So, unless of course Kibicho has signed some private arrangement with the DPP to say that he's going to be a prosecution witness, that we have not been told, because that's possible. Kibicho may actually decide, I'm going to be a prosecution witness, and enters into an arrangement.
Plea bargaining.
Plea bargaining. But plea bargaining does not happen first until there's a charge. So there has to be a charge, and then you can now enter into plea agreement. Unless we are saying what Sonko said was a lie. But if it was a lie, then why is he in custody? Why is he incarcerated? So yeah, legally speaking, here the law is being applied selectively, because the basis upon which we are charging Mike Sonko is based upon his confession.
Lakini kuongezea tu kidogo ni kwamba bwana Betok, mheshimiwa Dr. EKURU AUKOT, ni kwamba Sonko is, and I don't speak for him, I find some of his antics outrageous and hard to believe. But I must speak for a fellow Kenyan, because if I don't speak, tomorrow it might be me and there will be nobody to speak. So I must speak, even for a character whom sometimes I consider a miscreant, like Gideon Mbuvi Sonko. Kwamba we are going through the stage of investigation. He's not convicted. Yeye bado wanasema kwamba they are investigating. Na hivyo vitu ambavyo wanasema they are investigating, amemuhusisha Kibicho, na hakumuhusisha baada ya kushikwa. Alimuhusisha wakati alipokuwa akikiri. In other words, therefore, my understanding of how the law should function, both Sonko and Kibicho should be behind bars pending the completion of the investigation. It is not possible that we can talk about fair application of the law, that two individuals ambao wanashukiwa kuhusika katika uhalifu fulani, kwamba mmoja amefungiwa na mwingine hata mashtaka hajafunguliwa, na hata uchunguzi hatuna habari kwamba anachunguzwa pia. It is a travesty of justice. Finally, we forget, and we tend to forget very quickly. In 2017, there were all manner of militaristic maneuvers from the Jubilee Party during the campaign season. We saw various formations of people, some of whom we know as politicians, some of whom we do not know. Wamevalia majesi ya kijeshi. There were women in red militaristic attire, some of them donning berets, some of them donning military fatigues. There were men donning military fatigues who are going out more or less proclaiming war. Na hao watu hawakutendewa kitu chochote na hawajachunguzwa na bado wako huru wanaendelea. This government of Mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta, when history is eventually written, is going to be judged very harshly. It is possible to repress, corner, and intimidate your contemporaries, but you cannot intimidate history.
So let me add 2 more points, Bitok, to this issue of Sonko confession
to the next one, yes.
from a legal point of view. Well, you know, if you go back to 2017, the violence that took place in 2017, there were deaths that were caused. It's property that was destroyed. So what we will expect, for me, I have not seen the charge sheet, but I'm really curious to see the charge sheet based upon these confessions. I will expect a charge on murder or manslaughter, or a charge on destruction of property or causing arson or whatever, you know, all those kind of charges. Because these are all offenses known to law. And if it's true what Sonko did, confessed, and we also know that people died, people were maimed, you know, people's lives, properties were destroyed. These are all offenses under the penal code, the criminal procedure. Yeah. So I want to see those charges based upon this confession. Number 2, if indeed Sonko committed these offenses even 2017 or prior, how then was he cleared to run for the governor of Nairobi? How was he cleared to run for the senator of Nairobi then? You know, because Sonko has been a senator of this county.
He has been an MP.
He's been an MP, he's been a senator, he's been a governor. How then did the law clear him? Because that for me is also where there is a lacuna in the application of our law. You know, did the ESCC fail in application of the law? Did the police, because all of us, I remember when I was running for public office here, I was required to have a certificate of good conduct, which was signed by the police, you know? So, meaning, if there was any criminal case against me, then I could not have been cleared to run for public office. Yeah. Again, here we saw the law being applied selectively to allow certain candidates, going by Sonko's own confession and also going by the current charges against Sonko. I think there are charges against robbery with violence. I don't know what else is there. So the law was never applied. The law has never been applied in this country, properly, so to speak. And those are the dynamics we are seeing playing out. But also, if one person I know confesses that I committed this offense with, say, Bitok or Muluka, all of us should be in custody. All of us should be in custody. Yeah. The police should go after that other person.
Kila mtu ajitoe moja moja.
Yeah.
All right. I was talking about institutions. You mentioned about is it ingine anti-corruption?
ESCC.
ESCC. There's also one called NCIC that gave us a list of shame the other day. And all these things that are happening in this country, they're happening in the full glare of people who have been given the authority to check on the speeches, to check on the attitude in the country, to ensure that we don't have any, evil speech. The other day they listed some other chaps, including Angeno, Murodikir, Soro, and Simbarati. I don't know, but I feel as a country where we sit right now, we even have bigger insiders, beginning from the president, as you mentioned. Yeah. We have everybody who's being hatred out here. And how does NCIC claim to be performing its duties by giving us a list of names? So people we see, as citizens, we have a list of shame ourselves. We don't expect you to tell us the same things that we know. Are institutions in this country as toothless as NCIC?
To be honest with you, this is part of the reason why when I was promoting the Punguza Mizigo Bill in 2019 to 2020, one of my proposals was we cut down on the number of commissions. Some of them are completely useless and have no value addition into our society. Most of them. ESCC today to investigate corruption, and there's a case of corruption that I'm actually handling on behalf of a client, and the cracks I'm seeing in ESCC. One, it has become very lucrative to investigate corruption. If say allegedly I have stolen 100 million Kenya shillings, and then I'm being investigated by an officer, a public officer, who takes home 20,000. He comes to me and tells me, Bana, we've seen from the records that you cannot account for 100 million shillings. Do you know what the suspects now do? You'll tell the guy, Bana, listen, you're a police officer, you just take 20,000 home. Here is 1 million or 2 million. They write a very shoddy report of investigation. You get away. That's why you've never seen any of the mega corruption scandals. Nobody has gone behind bars because it's a trade-off. I mean,
it's rigged to fail.
It's an investment. It's an investment. If I steal 100 million, a guy comes to investigate me, I part 5 million with him. I get away with it. It's business. It's commercial transaction. You know? So, NCIC, another very useless entity that is selective in their mandate. Why have they not listed President Uhuru Kenyatta from what he said in Sagana? In fact, what Simbarati and Osoro did, that's a misdemeanor, I would say. It's a misdemeanor, fighting in public, creating disturbance. The police should have just picked on them and charged them, either, sent to jail for a number of weeks or months.
Or cause them to sweep.
Exactly, or something like that. Yeah. But otherwise...
Sweep the streets.
Yes, exactly. Clean up the streets. So NCIC is one of the commissions that I really wanted removed from the constitution, disbanded, because I see no value addition, to be honest. They are very selective. For example, I don't know whether Kamket was in that list.
He wasn't.
He wasn't. Yeah. But Kamket has repeatedly incited violence in Tiati against the Turkana community.
I don't know whether Mutai Ngunyi is on that list. I've been seeing his tweets, which are very
insightful.
They incite, they are very provocative. He's telling a specific community, do this, do that. Incitement to violence. I don't know whether the Deputy Speaker of Kisumu County Assembly is on that list. He has told us that he's going to beat up people. He's told Raila Odinga, weenda upumzike. Sisi tuachie kazi, tutacharaza watu. I do not know whether some other merchants of violence from right across the country. I've seen some people. Babu Wino have run into him together with other people, plotting violence that we then went on to see around Bama. I don't know whether he's there. I don't know whether Georgia Ladwa is there. There are many other people. So this is a useless instrument which at the very best is used by someone to intimidate people who are considered to be politically incorrect.
But what
we would say a toothless dog, but Barack would ask if it's even a dog.
No, it can bite. But it can bite.
It depends on where
it bites selectively.
But we talk what also saddens me. Forget about what the political class do. Yes, we know they are doing very bad manners publicly. But the description in the constitution of this commission is that they are independent, that their mandate cannot be influenced, or in the course of their mandate they cannot be influenced. Now we need to zero in on the chairman, on the members of these commissions. They are actually the ones failing to enforce the constitution and the rule of law. Because if you look at the NCIC Act, it gives them huge mandate. These people are failing. Why are they failing? Because they are basically political proteges. They are basically political puppets of these appointing authorities. And for me, one of the reasons why we want really to demystify these commissions in the Punguza Mizigo is to make sure that, one, we reduce them to a maximum membership of about 5. Minimum 3, maximum 5. And then they should work on part-time basis. It should not be like a permanent job. Because if you look at the cost these commissions are costing us, and yet we are not seeing any end results, I will use the money, the budget for NCIC today, to address the problem with clinicians, doctors, and nurses. And that you will serve Kenyans more. You'll actually give 47 million Kenyans
More value.
Because when you have good doctors, nurses, and clinicians in hospitals, then they are serving a larger population. Here you have about, and I think there are 9 commissioners who are just serving a few individuals. What is the value of that? You know, EACC, I will probably disband EACC and just create a special department within the police service to investigate, because corruption, as we call it normally, is actually theft of public resources and public money.
We have only romanticized it.
Yeah, we have romanticized it, but that's a criminal offense. Yes, that's a criminal offense. For me, I'll put that under the mandate of the police. Create a special police unit that just deals with investigating people who steal public money. Not even corruption. In fact, I think there is no word called corruption in our mother tongue. I don't know. Maybe the man from Munyulia village.
In Munyulia, we don't have those kinds of practices.
Because at least in Naturukana, which is my mother tongue that I speak, you cannot find the meaning of the word corruption, because I don't even know what it is. But if you tell me mtu ni mwizi, immediately I can relate to it.
So in Turkana, how do you call them?
Mwizi, we call ekokolan.
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 The Ekokolans of Kenya.
You know,
it's a woman, ekokolan.
You know, in a Manyudia, even a thief, we did not have. So when these things of stealing started, they came even with borrowed words.
Yes.
Because we did not have it. So we call the person who steals omwifi. Yeah, mwizi. We borrowed it from those
because you didn't have this.
From those who came with the theft, because we did not even have thieves. That's why you say omwifi. Yeah, but EKURU AUKOT, because I know we are running out of time. This big talk here might stop us any time. We need to say something kidogo about costs now that you have brought up issues of cost. President Uhuru Kenyatta tells MCS that we are going to give you 2 million shillings each. First, that is a bribe.
It's a bribe.
Let us just call it with its correct name. It is a bribe. These people have arrived before the president. They know that he's coming to on a Chamo offensive. He wants them to support the BBI bill, and they come with a raft of demands. We want retirement benefits, we want bigger salaries, we want cars, we want other luxuries, and he tells them 2 million mtapewa ya gari. It is a bribe. And that bribe, when you look at the numbers of the MCAs, they're elected, they're nominated, they number upwards of 2,200 and something. It's going to be 50-something billion Kenya shillings. I do not know how we have costed that and where that leaves us in the face of other national needs. The doctors whom Dr. Koch is talking about, others within the health services, education where we have children learning under trees because there are no classrooms. AUKOT, without intending it in a bad way, please understand and forgive me if you get a little offended. We used to understand that learning under trees was the preserve of Turkana. Now it is everywhere across the country, which maybe is a good thing, so that we can understand how the Turkana feel when they are made to learn under trees.
By the way, I don't think there's anything absolutely wrong with learning under trees.
Yeah, but we are learning under trees because we don't have the funds.
Okay, yes, that's the difference.
Yeah, we must juxtapose the two. Then we must go beyond that and remind ourselves that this BBI thing has never been budgeted.
Of course, it never was.
We do not know how much we have spent so far.
Over 20 billion.
And we do not know from what vote those monies are coming. We do not know which authority has given the clearance to spend those monies. We don't even know.
It's actually not in the budget.
How much more we are going to spend before we conclude the process, especially now with the inducements. We do not know what members of parliament and the Senate are going to ask for, as even we have seen MCAs asking. But beyond that, we do not know how much it's going to cost us to implement the constitutional, to actualize the constitutional changes that we are proposing within the BBI. To what extent is it going to beef up the national budget over the next 1 year, over the next 5 years, over the next 10 years? And it looks like it doesn't matter. I saw some honorable people being interviewed on TV a few days ago. One of them was Dr. Sihanya, who is from the BBI Secretariat. Bernard Sihanya. I've previously held him in very high academic and intellectual regard. But when the question of cost was raised,
there's no doubt he has the degrees as to whether that oozes wisdom or not.
I started doubting. He was hemming and hawing, and saying things like, "Oh, is it going to cost not so much?" How much is not,
not so much?
Is
you
not
know,
so much?
You know, Barack. Now you raise this issue, and especially when you look at even looking at the BBI report alone, Barack. Even looking just at the BBI report, the way it was drafted, look at the team that was there. You know, it has made me conclude one thing. To attend an educational institution is one thing, but to live there educated is completely another thing.
Different.
So, but you're talking of figures, Barack, some of these figures are out there. We now know that there's 14 billion allocated to the referendum. Okay? We know before that there was 10 billion, no, actually 20 billion for BBI when they were going around the country. So that's already 34 billion Kenya shillings. Now the president has promised MCS 45 billion. So just do the maths. Yeah, 34 billion plus 45 billion, that's how much? 79
billion.
79 billion. Yes. Our doctors and nurses are saying, for us to be able to take good care of your health, we just need under 10 billion. Doctors, nurses, clinicians, in their in their collective bargaining agreements with the government, which are signed and registered. The teachers are telling us, for us to be able to effect education, which is an investment in any country,
yes,
to create human development, index in this country that will run the machinery of this country to assure Kenyans that there will be continuity in terms of generation to come our tomorrow. We need just under 10 billion. So from the 79 billion of BBI, you could actually have addressed the problems of teachers, nurses, and serve 48 million Kenyans effectively. So those are the figures. And yes, you're right. The president actually committed an offense in Sagana when he publicly bribed members of the county assembly.
All right.
By promising them 2 million each.
Without a budget for that. Okay. Bunge la mwananchi iko wazi. Bunge iko wazi. Nambari ni 0779-800-010. Bunge la mwananchi liko wazi. 0779-800-010. 0779-800-010. Unaweza piga simu kwa hiyo nambari 0779-800-010. Unaweza ambao mko pale ngambo diaspora ni +254-779-800-010. +254-779-800-010. Kama uko Kenya 0779-800-010. Afadhali wacha tuzungumze na Arama, nisaidie pale simu. Hello Arama.
Hey, bwana Vitok.
Yes, habari ya leo.
Salama sana, good morning.
Good morning, good evening to you. Najua pale huko ni jioni ama sijui ni asubuhi.
Hapa ni jioni bwana, sasa usiku. Yeah.
Tuambie kaka.
So, first of all, ebu salimia my awaiting president bwana. I don't know what you are going to do. We have a president but we don't sing it. So
asante sana boss.
And he must make me his running mate.
You're very befitting.
So this I apologize, but this has been a very crazy week for me. That's why I've missed a lot of the sessions. But today he said lazima kufunga wiki, lazima tufunge wiki.
Nashukuru sana ndugu yangu.
Yeah, so here is, I want to make a couple of observations. Let me start with and allow me just to go back real quick to the Sonko saga, so to speak. When Aukot, you can help me. You are the lawyer. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm a wannabe lawyer to some extent.
Okay, go on.
I want to differentiate one thing. There is a confessed criminal who confessed crime.
Mm-hmm.
But he mentioned what we can call co-conspirators.
Mm-hmm.
But for them to be arrested or for them to be charged, you have to have corroborating evidence that will actually put them in place of the same thing. Now, knowing Sonko the way I know him, he records almost everything. You talk to him, and sometimes I wonder why people talk to him and give him secrets and tell him stuff, knowing that they are going to be recorded.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I was surprised, and I commented this in another forum. I said, I am disappointed with the DPP office because this is somebody who confessed in public.
Mm-hmm.
Then this person should have been arrested and charged in court.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on the other charges that Sonko has been charged with or accused of, I am very concerned. One, you are calling this guy a terrorist. My question one to the DCI and everybody else, how long have you known him plotting terrorist attacks?
Yeah.
That's question number one. And why have you waited up to this time to charge him for this?
Mm-hmm.
Because then to me, in as much as he has confessed to a crime, you are going to the other end, making it more of a vindictive affair than a rule of law. Because then, if you have been aware all this time and you have never taken action against this person,
mm-hmm.
one, you have put all Kenyans in jeopardy, their lives, while you sat on evidence for all these years.
Mm-hmm.
That is wrong. And those people, even the judge who was listening, that's why I'm like, why are you even entertaining these charges?
Mm-hmm.
And why are you holding someone preferring charges and putting someone in court for this act? Why are you asking for 30 days to investigate again?
Mm-hmm.
The judge should throw away this guy out on a bond. You go investigate on your own, because if you already have evidence, why do you need 30 days this guy in jail? It's more punitive and vindictive than a rule of law.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we need to look at it from that point and start as everybody demanding, even, to me now it comes to an issue of judicial abuse of power.
Right.
From the judges, the magistrates, and everything else.
They actually said, I'm going to teach you a lesson.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Now there was a threat from Kibicho who told him, I'm going to teach you a lesson. And somebody, one of the journalists said, are you saying this on your personal capacity, or are you saying this as a government official? Because you cannot differentiate the two at that point.
Mm.
So therefore, if I was, even for me, and I'm not Sonko's lawyer, but that is one thing you should raise his attorney. Mm-hmm. Hey, the government, the person in charge of security for the government threatened my client that he's going to teach him a lesson. Therefore, I can draw a direct line to the charges to what this guy has done.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you do all these things separately, but at least on that basis, this guy should be out.
Exactly.
Now, moving on to the other things that you guys have been talking, and I'm very encouraged with your discussion with BARRACK MULUKA. I can tell you, BARRACK, I knew about you when I was young in primary school with books and discussion about books and everything else. So I'm happy to put a face to the name.
Yes.
At this point. So I think Kenyans, and I'm going to encourage you, Bwana Aukot, maybe it's time to revive our Punguza Mzigo debate and bring it back.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe watu kama wanaongo hii milioni 2 bwana ya gari, si hata wewe uwapeleke hapo uambie utawapatia gari in theory, alafu
awafanyie sinema.
That's because, I mean, to me it's very sad. We as Kenyans don't see things the way they are. I mean, you have said something that I've even me have championed for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
When the government says no money to pay our medical personnel, people who are actually risking their lives, and some of them have died.
Mm-hmm.
And you tell them there is no money. Then you turn around, somebody comes and say, I need 2 million to pass your bill. You're like, oh, you have it.
Yeah.
Watu bwana, hata my fellow citizen over here, anaitwa Oprah Winfrey, mwenye anasema you want a car, you got it, you got a car, she has to pay for it. But these people just use our money to bribe somebody else. Sasa unapatia 2 million to an MCA. But you have medical persons in that same area who have not even been paid for the last 6 months, some of them even close to a year. And I mean, these are travesties that we should not actually be. To me, and going to the same thing you talked about, members of parliament who should have, by now, should have pushed a motion to impeach the president or censure him or something. Is the same thing I'm saying is there are so many things that has happened. The members of either side, I don't care which side they are, Tanga, Kieleweke, whatever side they want to call themselves. If you're championing the people's agenda, why have you not taken even a motion? Let the motion be defeated. Let your proposal in parliament, but at least you stood up for the people. That has not happened. To me, at this point, it's high time teach our politicians one strong lesson. I don't care where they are coming from. I don't care their history. Kenyans, if we can go and kick these people out, all of them, all of them, and to some extent, to say leo UKOT wewe ukuje kwetu either where I was raised in Molo, or you go to where my parents come from, Nyamira, and say I'm running for a senator in Nyamira, and here is my agenda. Here is what I will do for the people of Nyamira. Here is what I can do for the people of Nakuru County. And we look at what you're proposing and say, you know what? Let's try you. I don't care where you're coming from, but as long as you have something that is going to help my community and my area, then I should vote for you.
All right.
But when somebody comes and says, oh, mutu wetu, that person, like I encourage my people from where I grew up in Kurosoi to cane our deputy speaker, because we have lived without a road for the last almost 50 years now. And these people have eaten money every day. People are struggling. One of the most productive areas in the country in terms of agriculture. But we don't have roads. But same guy has been in parliament over and over. When are we going to learn?
Elected by you.
Ni mshahara tu anakula bwana. Ni mshahara tu.
It's a rubber stamp institution.
I mean, that's the other problem I'm having also. But Kenyans, the other day the parliament passed another so-called development bill worth millions of money. Without asking the money we had already passed for development previously, where is that money? Which means this money is being passed, we are getting close to elections, people have to line up pockets and get money for campaigning, but we are not seeing that. Can we wake up and see this and do what is right for our country? Otherwise, as you said, if you are going to leave it for this political class, we all be doing is singing and crying online and become keyboard warriors, and that's it.
All right. Thank you so much, George.
Thank you for the time.
Thank you so much, my brother. Have a good evening. All right. I think we'll pick it from there. I don't know if you have any comments to make on...
For me, just quick ones. There are two things that he has raised. Number one, the whole political leadership in this country is actually a criminal enterprise. And especially people in government. What is happening to Sonko and those charges they're bringing against him is because they kind of, in a way, they take stock of your misdeeds. They will use you at the opportune time to support them to get into government. But when you decide to either be independent or do things differently, then they bring all these charges. So the whole thing is a complete lie. Secondly, the leadership in this country, actually, I don't even think we can talk about leadership as such, because leadership, the way I understand it, must be able to steer a country to a certain direction of prosperity. We don't see that in Kenya. We see elected leaders only concerned about how much money they can make, and when, for example, elected leaders deviate or disagree with the government, you've seen what the president is capable of doing, to come back and say, hey, I'll give you XY amount. I'll bribe you. Actually, maybe let me just apologize to the listeners and viewers. It is not 45 billion. It's actually 4.5 billion. Yeah. So 4.5 billion. So at least we are talking about a substantial figure, about 38.5 billion Kenyan shilling that goes to BBI. And still, is still a lot of money that could address the problems that I raised earlier. A problem with nurses, with doctors, with teachers, and all that. So, yes, we don't have a leadership in Kenya. We don't really have a leadership. I think we just have commercial, we have merchants, political merchants.
Politicopreneurs.
Yes.
Kabogo said something like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Maybe you can also weigh in.
I'm
also seeing a number of calls.
One very quick and short one. You know, when we talk about things like terrorism, and we are talking about people who have been causing around with Sonko. He has been placing some of them on speakerphone, so that the citizens can know how deeply healed he is all the way into State House. One must start asking the question, at what point did they know that he was actually a merchant of terrorism? And could they also be complicit? Therefore, have they abetted a crime? Have they known this thing all this time? And they've been keeping quiet about it. It's been in the public knowledge for some time that Sonko would appear to be a fugitive on the run from prison, where he seems to have escaped. He seems to have forged a death certificate.
The guy is already dead.
Yes.
Anyway, let's hear this one guy. Good morning.
Good morning, Gerald.
Jambo, habari ya leo?
Nzuri sana.
Tuambie dadi, nazungumza na nani?
Unazungumza Langat, eh?
Yes, Langat.
Yeah, I've been following the discussion and it's quite well.
Thank you.
Yeah, so maybe the question that I can ask Mr. EKURU AUKOT and the fellow panelists, eh? I believe these people are saying that they are not against PPI and, you know, they are not giving us the direction. As in, are they supporting it or not? Because to me, the 5%, development has actually worked for quite some time. And, you know, the 5% that has actually been recommended under the PBI, it will bring development to the world level. I think I would rather we take the 35% that has actually been said to be in the BBI than to stick on what is not there at all. Because I believe that the 5% that shall be there will actually bring devolution to all levels of government. Because there is no need to remain with the big stake of the cake in the national government and actually have less money on the county level. So I believe BBI will actually improve devolution. That is according to me. Another thing. We've been in a country whereby there is the winner takes it all. And under the government of Kibaki and Raila in 2008 to 2013, I think they did quite a lot of things. So there is nothing that is being introduced that is new. Everything that is happening in the government of Jubilee, like now, we normally have the majority leader, which I think the Prime Minister will take that position. So there is nothing new. And I think this team should actually tell us if they are supporting it or not. You know, they can be saying like there are good things in it. I believe the ballot actually will decide everything. That is my take.
All right. Thank you. Asante sana. Thank you so much, Langat. Have a good day. It's good to see you. All right. I'll have you continue your thoughts.
First of all, let me respond to Langat before I forget.
Let's allow his thoughts to flow.
Yes, very quickly and briefly. There's something called crying wolf. And it's going to be very important to see how far the government is going to proceed with this proclamation, these pronouncements, about terrorism on the part of Sonko. It's not the sort of thing that you just play around with, saying that this man has been promoting terrorism when you are not able to build a case. Because someday might come when somebody actually gets involved with the terrorist acts, and we will not be able to take you seriously. We will refer to the old case where you just cried wolf and nothing happened. There was no wolf as such. Then very briefly before Heshimiwa Dr. EKURU AUKOT comes on board to say something about Langat, this is what is called holy simplicity. Sancta simplicitus. Holy simplicity. Holy
Muluka alisema ajui Kiingereza na sasa ameunleash.
Hata anisaidie Kiingereza. Kuna mahali naenda weekend, unisaidie Kiingereza niende nitumie.
Langat, if you are listening, you are still listening, which I believe you are, then let me say with a lot of respect that you are a victim of holy simplicity, sancta simplicitus, and you are not alone. Like when there is no
At least he's
food,
not alone, he's in company.
yeah, there are many others. When there is no food and the parent takes some stones and puts them in a pot and puts their water and tells the kids, be patient, we are boiling meat and potatoes and all other good stuff you are going to eat. And the children feel very happy and they are singing and clapping and they are even stoking the fire further because they believe that something is cooking in the pot and that they will eat that something which is cooking in the pot. When you are being told about this 35% and you are saying, let it come, let us at least take that, we are in a place today where, as we have been told, and sometimes because it's William Ruto who says these things and you don't like him, you want to throw the baby away with the bath waters. They have told you to separate the individuals from the debate. They are not able to deliver 15%. Where is 35% going to come from? When you look at even just the distribution of the national budget today, we have gotten to a situation where we are borrowing to fund recurrent expenditure, which is against even our law itself as it exists.
I'm borrowing from Muluka to pay Bitok. Then I borrow from Bitok to pay Muluka.
It is, you are digging a pit to fill up a pit and digging another pit to fill up another pit and another pit to fill up a pit, but you are supposed to fill up with some interest. So you are getting into a deadlock, dead end. In the long run, we don't know what is going to happen to you. This 35% will never come. It will never come. Anyone who is watching and listening, I invite you to write that in your diary today, because when the dire consequences of this thing you are talking about do come, it is going to be useful to remember that there were some people who talked about this holy simplicity. The whole essence of this BBI thing is about the national executive, which is supposed to be an imperial, parasitic national executive under the heavy arm of a president who is going to appoint a prime minister whom he or she can sack the next day. It's going to be about encroachment into the judiciary through an avenue called the judiciary ombudsman, who is going to ride roughshod through the judiciary.
But
you have
we
nowhere.
already have an ombudsman in the judiciary.
Yes, but this one is going to be, in fact, there is already.
There is already.
But what we are trying to do now is to constitutionalize it. Yeah? You now give it the force of law so that if today you can challenge the president against illegality, in the future the president will say, but it is in the law, but it is in the constitution. So this thing is seeking to create a constitutional autocracy under the heavy arm of the president, that the people we have been vetting through parliament, and I had Professor Sihanya talking about this, saying, oh, these people have already been vetted by the electorate, and therefore the president can just appoint them. It is unnecessary, or the president should not have a deputy who can challenge him. When the drafters of the constitution, and I've got one of them here this morning, knew how that office of deputy president had been abused, they insulated it.
Exactly.
And said, now we must have a deputy president who can also stand up and say no. And we are seeing that the constitution is being tested, and we are seeing that it is working. It is functioning the way the drafters intended that it should be. It has got sufficient shock absorbers, but we are being told we want to take away all that. So, in the spirit of holy simplicity, and I don't doubt that it is a very widespread spirit, we are likely to get to a point where these things will be bulldozed through the county assemblies. People will be bribed. Some will be intimidated. Others will be blackmailed. It will go through. We will come to the referendum. Those who do not like it, who might even be the majority, might stay away, while the minority might turn up to vote, and the majority of the minority may vote yes, and we will end up with this thing, and it will take another 40 years to overthrow it. That is why it must be remembered that there were people who stood up and said no. He asked whether we are supporting or not. As Barrack, Okwaro, Maina, Muluka, I'm saying no, and I want it to be recorded for posterity.
We have recorded it. We'll pay it again.
Someone has called you Omshisa Mwana. Tell them we schooled.
We schooled. We want to school.
But listen, let me start with, of course, BBI is a no to me.
And even as you weigh on that, so that we save on time, court, the issue of the county assembly. The other day, Siaya County Assembly became the first county assembly to pass the BBI document. Without that debate, without proper debate, without the public participation, I mean, all protocols were broken.
Exactly.
To pass a document of a promise, or probably I don't know what it was all about. Where is the position of the Mwananchi? As you start with the Mulanga, then you land up there.
In fact, I'm hoping it is true you brought that issue of public participation. This is a principle of national governance in our constitution, which is enshrined in Article 10. Public participation, accountability, all those principles, inclusion, are all enshrined there. So this bill should have been taken to the people. You remember during the Punguza Mizigo bill, the process was very clear that a county assembly said we have to go and talk to our people. And that's exactly what happened. The county of Sierra, because I don't want to be derogatory, but like I think Junet said that some of us are cows of a certain leader. I mean, he said it publicly.
And he's not a pastoralist.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
So what happened to the county of Siaya? Of course, they broke all protocol. They never followed the law. They never observed the law. So that process actually should be invalidated. And I'm hoping that somebody, a spirited Kenyan out there, will actually go to court and challenge the passage of that law to be declared null and void ab initio. To BBI, for me, as I said, it's no for many reasons. One, BBI is nonsense upon stilts, as we say. I think Thomas Hobbes says it. It is unconstitutional. It's repetitive. It's directionless. For me, there is nothing new that BBI actually brings to this country that we cannot address. In fact, a lot of the garbage in BBI, a lot of the rubbish in BBI proposal is actually administrative and legislative and even policy. Let me tell you why BBI is a big lie. I'll pick it from what Lagat suggested. And I want Lagat not to be swayed by this thing of 35%. In the current constitution, it says that the counties should receive at least 15%.
A minimum.
Minimum, at least. Nothing has stopped the executive from saying we are going to send 50% or even 80% to the county. The language of the constitution was at least. Assuming even they have not read the constitution, which is true, many of them have not read this constitution. Assuming they have not read, and I mean it's a fact they haven't really read, because if they had read, simple English says, and Muluka here can clarify, because he speaks a lot of very good English than me. At least means what? A minimum. Yeah? Not an English teacher, but at least I know.
Yes.
That's the minimum.
It is the benchmark.
The benchmark. So you can go as high as you want.
You can even give 100%.
Now, because they have not read the constitution, there's a person called President of the Republic of Kenya who enjoys what is called executive order. President, he has effected many executive orders in a number of things, including creating the Nairobi Metropolitan Service. We didn't need to amend the Constitution of Kenya to create Nairobi Metropolitan Service. We did not amend the Constitution to create the CAS, or the Chief Administrative Secretaries.
Yes.
Yes.
And also ministers without portfolio.
Ministers without portfolio. We never amended the Constitution. So he has the executive order that he can sign today and say, I'm going to send 50% to the counties. And like I've said, Bitok here in your show many times, if you deconstruct the national,
It is actually a show now.
yes, if you deconstruct the national, what is the national? Let's deconstruct the national. The national is the 47 counties of Kenya. The national is the 1450 wards in Kenya. The national is the 290 constituencies in this country. The national is the 48 million Kenyans. So when you keep more money to what you call the national, it's a misnomer. You should actually send more money to the counties, to the wards, and that way, the national should be the opposite. What should be the smaller unit of government should actually be the national. So they should take the smallest portion of budget. But the bigger portion of our budget for development, for resources allocation, should actually go to the ward level. And that's why for me in Punguza Mzigo, I propose to retain the 1450 wards for purposes of service delivery. So that in each and every ward of this country, if you get services at your very doorsteps, then you know what, even anything can be president up there.
We really don't care.
Nobody care, because now if I've got hospital, schools, good roads, electricity, employment at my ward level.
You don't care who is president.
You don't care who is president. You can even decide to relocate to a place called Todonyang in Turkana or in Lunga because there are facilities. This is what happens in developed countries. You can relocate anywhere. As a matter of fact, people run away from the big cities.
Especially in the UK. I'm not just surprised
UK.
people love living a country in the UK.
Yeah, I lived in the Midlands in the UK, and I had everything. Just from outside my house, I'll jump into a bus. 10 minutes, I'm in a train station. If I want to go to London, I go to London, transact my business, I'm back into Coventry. I take a train to Scotland. Services are there, So when we deconstruct the national, so when BBI is lying to people that they will bring 35%, Katiba is very clear. Katiba inasema, at least 15%. Nothing stops them. And by the way, why should we believe a process being driven by Jubilee administration to promise us many things? Let's go back to 2013. For a government, adults who lie to our children that I'll give you a laptop, to children, why should adults now believe this person if you can lie to children?
It's our turn.
Yeah?
It's our turn to be lied to.
This government promised what? 3 million annually, progressively. Where are those 3 million jobs? So why will we now be promised at your vijana? Listen, do you need to amend the Constitution of Kenya to give tax havens, tax holidays? Or
if I was a minister, I would just have lunch, feel good, and come out and say from today onwards, students don't have health loans. And we move on.
By the way, which country is this yesterday? That's now, Liberia, a country I worked in. Now they have declared school fees for up to undergraduates for free, up to education, in all public universities. And this is a country that's not even anywhere close to the economy of Kenya. We can do it. Those are all policy administrative issues. So Langat and others, please don't believe in this lie called BBI. It's a lie. It's about, actually, this BBI thing is creating ethnic hegemony at the very top. That's what it is.
There's something, Muluka, where is a place of the Mwananchi in this conversation? County assemblies are proceeding to approve bills without involving the Mwananchi. Who does the law belong to? Does it belong to the politicians? It belongs to the people. Where does it leave the people then?
The law should belong to the people. All sovereignty belongs to the people. It emanates from the people, and it resides in the people, and it eventually rests with the people. That is the spirit and letter of the Constitution from the hand of those who drafted it, from those of us who participated in the various debates and eventually voted for it and were beholden in the promulgation of that Constitution. But the way it has been managed, and now the direction it is being taken, it belongs to a small oligarchy at the very top. And the things which have been done, defying the Constitution, you are told to appoint 41 judges and you refuse with impunity. You are told that you should dissolve parliament, and you don't consider it important even to deign by way of giving a reasoned reply why you will not dissolve parliament. You have got the responsibility of ensuring that the gender principle functions. If you have a challenge with it in the legislature, at least you don't have a challenge where you are supposed to be appointing. As president, you have the mandate and you know the numbers, and you've gone to good exclusive schools that some of us have only heard about. And you have learned all the mathematics that Kerry Francis and Owen and C.V. Durrell could teach. You can look and you know what 2/3 is, and you can actually say 1 out of 3 or 2 out of 3.
Matusi bila matusi.
Where do you get the sarcasm? We should declare the sarcasm master. All right.
You have defied all that. But what you are trying to do now is to entrench it in constitutionalism, so that it is perverted constitutionalism.
Yes. But Muluka, even in his own house,
yes,
which is the cabinet,
yes,
you cannot just do the calculation like you say.
Yes,
what is a third of gender?
Just look at C.V. Durrell and say a third.
Yes,
1/3
in your own decision.
That one, even those of us who only read the Bible in school understand. We can do that distribution, and say 1 out of 3 and hivi.
Machungwa tatu moja kati tatu.
And if I can't do that, and I'm the president and I can't do 2/3, I can put together 10 people, men and women, na nitahesabu mmoja mmoja, na mwanamke mmoja simama hapa, mwanaume hapa, mwanamke mwingine hapa, until I can see that there are 3 on this side, or 3 point something. And since there are no 3 point something people, I can say 4.
You round off to the nearest
6 on this side. So what we are seeing through this BBI effort, and I don't know how this message could ever get home. People who have read big books and are competent to be called learned, and they call themselves learned friends, may help me to take home this message.
Yes.
That there is this illegal dispensation. There has been this practice of illegality, but you want to remove the cloak of illegality and dress it up now in legality. So that when you do those things, people can no longer tell you that you are breaking the law. That you are going outside and beyond your powers, ultra vires, beyond your powers. You don't have that authority. Now that is what this thing is seeking to do. And Raila Odinga likes it because, as usual, he is very naive politically. Sometimes I hear people praising him and saying he's a strategist. He's not. The one thing that defines Raila Odinga when the history of this country is finally written is political naivety. That he actually believes he's going to be the next president, and so he's stockpiling these powers in that institution of the presidency, believing that he's headed there, that it is his next destination, and therefore that he's going to be exercising those powers. As happened before in 2010, when he thought that he was going to become the president and abandoned the parliamentary system that he had advocated for so long, he's going to be surprised when once again someone else lands in State House, and he'll be looking for not just another handshake, he'll be looking for another opportunity again to start changing the constitution. Because the constitution for him is a moving object that must keep on moving until the day when the coordinates are going to be in alignment with his self-focused political ambitions. And he thinks, let us stockpile here. His father, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, God rest his soul in eternal peace, was a victim of the same kind of political naivety, working in cahoots with Tom Mboya, introducing constitutional changes that said things like the president is above the law, because he actually they hoped that they were going to be in government.
For they were snookered.
And they were snookered. And Charles Njonjo, at some point, also changed the constitution of this country, together with Mwai Kibaki.
To try and lock out Moi. Only for Moi to sneak through the book.
Through. And Charles Njonjo again went further and made us a one-party state autocracy. He was locked out. And Raila Odinga, again, he could put this down in writing. I'm not a Jewish prophet, but sometimes the things that humble mouths such as ours pronounce do come to pass. And he's going to find himself looking for a handshake. He has done 3 so far. He did one with Moi in 1998. He did another one with Mwai Kibaki in 2008. And he's done one with Uhuru Kenyatta
in 2018.
Is it a rhyme? And if my mask are correct, Muluka, it looks like every 10 years.
Every 10 years.
Will have to do
every 10 years.
So will it still be an handshake after that? It will be a hug now.
This time it's going to be telescoped. It's not going to be 10 years.
You know, Bitok, Muluka. The more I think about BBI, the more I try to describe it metaphorically. A very nice warm shower. Alafu unajipaka manukato, unajipodoa vizuri, unang'ara, unavaa suti mpya mzuri, alafu bado unaenda kucheza kwa matope. That's exactly where BBI is taking us. I'm not saying the 2010 constitution is perfect. There are certain areas we could have strengthened because it's a product of negotiations. Or constitution making is a negotiated agreement. But it's a better document in terms of where it has placed Kenya. It's actually a developmental constitution. But what these guys are doing to us right now, like I say, it's like we had cleaned up ourselves to a certain extent. See, even when you take a shower, it's not like you remove every dirt in your body. That's
why you wash towels.
Exactly, that's why we wash towels. So, lakini at least umejinyorosha, unasikia kidogo, kuna mahewa safi nini. Lakini sasa hawa watu wanaturudisha bado kwa matope. Yeah? That's exactly where BBI is taking this country.
Wanakuja na hongo, wanakuja na vitisho, wanakuja na dhoruba kalikali, wanakuja na matusi, na sisi wengine tunanunulika kwa urahisi, wengine wanapumbazwa, tunakuwa ni mbumbumbu, tunakubali. Na hatimaye tutasikia hicho kiboko kitakapo tunyorosha mwilini. Itakuwa ni vigumu sana kugeuza.
Tayari tuko tumeshaumia. Haya, swali la mwisho, what is the state of judiciary? Looks like at the exit of Maraga, the judiciary has continued to be intimidated. We are seeing what is happening to CJ Mwilu the other day. I'm seeing also the courts. Looks like the courts, it's back to the days when the courts were used to punish people who had political dissent. What is the state of judiciary from a legal point of view?
To be honest, the state of the judiciary in Kenya today, I will tell you, is in disarray. From two perspectives. When we were writing the Kenya Constitution, you see, a lot of Kenyans have not read, for example, the schedules to this Constitution. And if you read the 6th schedule, I think it must be section 22, where we are trying to clean up the judiciary, to bring in the idea of vetting judges and magistrates, so that we remove the bad elements, so that we now give Kenyans a clean judiciary. Because we truly believe that Kenya was in the cusp of renewal at the time we were writing the Constitution, because Kenyans had said, and I remember it was during the radical surgery of the judiciary under Aaron Ringera, was it in 202, 203, if I'm not wrong, where he came up with a finding that Kenyans genuinely believed that if you can buy a judge. Why hire a lawyer? That there was no point. So that is the judiciary where we came from. So when we were writing the Constitution in 2010, we took all those issues into consideration. And that's why we came up with the vetting of judges and magistrates. But it seems we actually gave people a license to misbehave more. Now that I've been vetted and judged, you cannot hold anything more against have a certificate of cleanness. Fast forward, what is happening to cases such as Sonko and others? Because truly speaking, Kenyans believe that whenever the executive or even the legislature misbehaved itself, we will run to the judiciary as the vanguard of justice. But that's not happening. Because today I don't understand why the Constitution is very clear that a person has to be bailed within a certain time. Why isn't a magistrate courageous enough to say, we are violating the right of this person under Chapter 4 of our Constitution, which is the Bill of Rights? But I'm not surprised, again, because it is the same President Uhuru Kenyatta, following the nullification of the 2017 election, August 2017 election, who publicly said, we shall revisit. He actually threatened, and he told the judiciary, you wait and see what I'm capable of doing. And like Muluka rightfully noted earlier, he's refused to swear in 41 judges. In other words, he is actually undermining the judiciary.
He's revisiting.
In his revisiting approach. In fact, one of the judges since died. We're now talking about 40. Yeah. So he deliberately disregarded a directive from the Chief Justice, which is a constitutional directive under Article 261, I think. Yeah. Where it says, but you failed to implement a certain section of the Constitution.
Yes.
It is your mandate now dissolve this parliament. He ignored that and all other things. So the truth for the matter is, I think the judiciary is cowed. It's been intimidated. And I think we are back to the dark days of Khan, where you say anything against the government or you're a public servant, you're trying to do something funny, they come probably with an envelope. In the morning, you wake up and you find that under your door, there's an envelope. And in that envelope, there are all manner of Trump charges, or KRA, you've not paid taxes for this number of years. Then you submit to that authoritarian rule. And I think that's what's happening to the judges right now. And especially after the exit of Maraga, you see what they're trying to do to Deputy Justice Mwilu, acting CJ today. It's a shame. It's a travesty. And it's like we're killing. Of course, one arm of government is dead, the executive. I don't even count it anymore because it's just about themselves. Parliament has been killed. Now they are trying to kill the only other limping arm of this government, the judiciary.
Which was our only hope.
So really, you can actually say Kenya today is not a constitutional country. Because if the executive is not enforcing the Constitution, the legislature has gone into slumber. That is not a proper ingredient of a constitutional democracy. A constitutional democracy is where you have got the three arms of government fully functioning, and then the independent offices, for example, as we created them, the NCIC, the ESCC, the IEBC, all those have been compromised by the executive. So really, I know it's like a grave indictment to make, but I think we are hardly a constitutional democracy, because those cogs of democracy, of governance, are not working together, they're not collaborating. counties have been compromised, as you know. They either belong to
Odinga or to Kenyatta.
Yes, exactly.
Right. And the two gentlemen believe that they own the country the way a feudal lord owns his feudal land and property. And everybody who should have the misfortune of finding themselves in that space is their serf. We are in serfdom. And they start wondering why there should be an assertive judiciary. The judiciary should be an instrument that serves those who are exercising executive power for the time being. And the legislature should also be an instrument and a property. And all of us become the property. And because EKURU AUKOT and the other experts gave us a constitution that on paper says that we are a constitutional democracy, it must be overthrown. The BBI is about formal overthrowing of constitutionalism in the country and packaging an autocracy in the garb, in the cloth of legality, and giving us now a pure constitutional dictatorship that you cannot question. Odinga and Kenyatta believe that they own the country and the people the way they own their various pairs of shoes and vests. You see, I've said before, when you own a pair of shoes, such as the ones you're wearing now, you can decide to give them to me, to sell them to me at a price. You can sell them to Shuba Nandebe.
You can throw them away.
You can throw them away. You can pass them to your younger brother or to some other villager. They are yours. And there's a sense in which this class believes that it owns Kenya, that when it starts
together with all of us
listing its assets,
we are the appendages.
We are the appendages. And the judiciary together with us.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, I think they believe, they probably believe that Kenya is their shamba. Like they have a title deed to it. They can mortgage it, they can charge it,
and
can sell it.
We are part of the property.
We are the property.
And you say,
that's why they
you're
say
selling with excesses.
Yeah, that's why they say, that's why they say, this is my county. That you cannot go to a certain place, for example, and express yourself. Utapigwa.
Alafu jambo la mwisho tu lile ningependa kuchangia, kisha nafikiri tutaruhusiwa kuondoka.
Hiyo sasa ndio taita tackle of the day yako. Your tackle of the day.
My tackle of the day. Kwamba we are creating, and we seem to have that appetite, has a very sharp appetite, to create in this country the institution of warlords. Warlordism. Kwamba even the media has accepted. And in fact, the media is the catalyst.
I don't even think
they look at Luyaland, where I was born, and they are wondering who our warlord should be. Should it be Mudavadi? Should it be Wetangula? Mukisa Kitui is also coming in from the shadows and is trying to get into that space, and Wycliffe for Paranya. And we have got fiefdoms within Luyaland that are striving for the ultimate warlord in that space. And I have seen a certain Peter Amunga saying things in the social media kwamba watachapa watu, sijui watafanya nini, getting ready and gearing.
I think that guy works for
yeah, I think so. Yeah, gearing for that and writing very uncouth things which someday is going to be held responsible for. And you have seen that in Mount Kenya region, Uhuru Kenyatta goes into panic. And he says, my space is getting threatened. And I must be the ultimate warlord in that space. Then you go to Luoland, they have got their warlord. You go to the Kalenjin country and you find the wrestling is going on. Then you go to the coast and you find some people are saying, hey, hata sisi tumenyanyaswa kwa muda mrefu, tumezuzuliwa na kuchachawizwa kwa muda mrefu. Sasa tujipange, tusipojipanga tutapangwa. And you find there is that strife of who is the warlord. Should it be Joho or should it be Kingi? Because there must emerge a warlord. You go to Ukambani and you find they are wrestling, that this is my space. There's Mutua, there's Kibwana, there is Ngilu, and now there is even Mudama. And each one of them is trying to become the warlord. We are afraid of all other conversations, including conversations on class struggle. While Karl Marx has told us that the history of all hitherto existing societies is the history of class struggles. But we are not afraid of conversations on creation of warlords within tribes. And the worst form of class struggles is when the dominant class is actually a tribe. It is coterminous with that tribe, where we say that tribe A is the dominant class. I commend Amichua's a seminal work titled The World on Fire to everyone to read ahead of the next election. The World on Fire.
The World on Fire.
By Amichua. And they will understand some of the fears that some of us sometimes troubled by. Thank you.
All right, you sign out.
I think for me, I'll
AUKOT,
briefly pick up from Muluka. Very able description of Kenya in terms of creation of these warlords and tribal warlords. So my talk of the day will be a challenge to you, ordinary Kenyan, who is not this warlord. Where is your space in this creation of this warlord? What is your role in the creation of this warlord? Do you think you have a role to play in at least wrestling out the country from these warlords? Because the truth for the matter is, is that Kenya belongs to all of us in equal measure. All of us own this country. This country is not owned by a few individuals who are now, just because of positions of privilege that we give to them, they can now decide to rearrange us like the furniture in their homes. I think Kenyans, we should admit we are the problem. The problem is not these warlords. We are the problem, because we are the ones who queue for hours on hand to elect these individuals and put them in places of, of privilege, in the hope or in the false understanding that they're actually going to be our leaders that will chaperone us to a certain direction of prosperity. So if there's really the real problem makers in this country, it's not this tiny minority of individuals, Raila, Uhuru, Ruto, Kalonzo, the Mudavadis, or the rest. It is us, the ordinary majority in this country. We are the ones who are actually the problems. We are the ones who make this bed. And I think when these leaders create discomfort in us, in the way we coexist, the way they now pit a Kikuyu against a Luo, an ordinary Kikuyu against a Luo who struggles to put food on the table, the problem actually is not them. It's just that they have discovered that this is how this is our investment. Part of the investment is in our mediocrity, is in our naivety as a people, and therefore they are optimally exploiting that. So the day we wake up, smell the coffee, and realize that we are not going anymore to keep on watering this creation of warlordism in our country, I think that's when we will liberate Kenya. And we need to think about the hard questions. Today, as we speak, the national debt is, I think, 9 trillion, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, hovering somewhere there.
They're about 9 trillion. This is money.
The one that we know.
The one that we know. This is a national debt that will not be paid by Uhuru Kenyatta when he leaves office. It will not be paid by Raila Odinga when he leaves office. It will not even be paid by Ruto when they leave office. It will be paid by you if you are lucky enough to live longer. But ultimately, it will be your children and their children who will have to pay this debt. So, wanatuongezea mizigo badala ya kutupunguzia mizigo. That's my tackle of it.
And you've been challenged to rudisha punguza mzigo. You've been challenged to return punguza mzigo. So I hope you're going to do something about it, because unless we do something about all these things we talk about, then change will continue to evade us for the longest time. Until we do something, it's going to continue to evade us.
Actually, we can go into partnership with the tackle.
Yes, you can get
Why not?
busy. It's here. I mean, we all have the same ambition, and Muluka is here. We all have the same intention to make a change.
But in the interest of transparency, to respond to people who have said bring back punguza mizigo, the truth for the matter is that we have actually, everything is on the ready. We have requested IBC to give us the basic data of counties, constituencies, polling stations. They have refused to give us this data, and I've even spoken to Chebukati a couple of times about this. Wamekata. Looks like they've been given instructions not to give us this, because I wanted data that can be authenticated, so that when you endorse punguza mizigo, you can confirm this is my ward, this is my polling station, for purposes of verification. Because we don't want to leave anything. We don't want to do mambo chini chini the way BBI did.
Absolutely. And the IEBC has got a duty, a sacrosanct duty to avail information to the public, to any one member of the public. They behave as if, again, it's their personal property, private property.
I formally wrote to them to request for this information, because I know people want me to bring back punguza mizigo, but I want to bring it with all the attendant aspects of it, so that when you sign in as a voter, we don't want to give anybody the excuse that, there's a problem here, count this, because they are complicating this thing. Ideally, it should actually be your name as it is in the voters register and your ID. But I want to make it clean, so that you can actually even indicate I'm a voter in this polling station, this is my ward, this is my...
Absolutely.
And I've written formally. They have refused.
I want you to bring that up again, so that we can take it up for our cuts for Twitter. The same thing. What do you about IBC?
What I've said, I have formally written to IBC under Article 35 of the Kenya Constitution on the right to information. And the information I want for purposes of punguza mizigo is information on all the constituencies, the 290 constituencies, on all the wards, 1450 wards, and then all the polling stations, about 48,000, if I'm not wrong, polling station. Only IEBC can authenticate this information. And I wanted to make it part of the endorsement of punguza mizigo. I have spoken to Chairman Chebukati, I've spoken to the CEO, Marijan, and up to now, they have refused to give us this information.
They refused to give you information. All right, over to you, Chebukati, and the person who has been spoken to at IBC. We hope to hear from you soon on why you've not provided the public information to Punguza Mzigo or to Thirdway Alliance, so that they can formulate their Punguza Mzigo bill. We want to hear from, because we are all Kenyans. I want to request when Punguza Mzigo part 3.
Exactly.
Tupunguza na punguza. Tupunguze mpaka tumalize. Kila mtu apunguza. All right, guys, thank you so much for always joining us. It's all a pleasure. I'm saying Abbas, you're going to say EKURU, take my signature now. Look for the other 900,999. Muluka iko hapa pia. Yangu iko hapa pia. David Koro says in inch yetu bwana. Abbas, you're going to say Rao will do the next handshake. We'll do that. They can't work together. Currently, until 2022 elections is conducted, they are contestants. Abraham Fangila Wafula says wonderful, thank you. Kazimba says master of handshake. All right. Said what a great discussion. Every 10 years we need a handshake. Will bewitch us. All right. Thank you guys for always tuning us, gentlemen. I really appreciate to have you again. I hope to see you again next week on Sheria Wiki, so that we can give value to Kenyans, so that we can have a different conversation that changes the landscape. We are changing the conversation. We are sweeping the carpet and we are moving the cheese. When they say who moved our cheese, we'll say we did it. When you guys were sleeping. The Tacklers, thank you for always tuning in. Thank you for the support and for always sharing. Keep sharing our broadcast. Go to YouTube, look for Gerald Bitok. Go to Twitter, #TheTackle or at Gerald Bitok. You'll find us there. Keep sharing our videos. And by the way, when you go to YouTube, when you're watching our videos, don't skip the ads. Up and you kitu inafanya tulipa mshahara. Tafadhali don't skip the ads. Keep when you're watching, please watch all the ads. It's only 2 seconds or 5 seconds or 3 seconds and you're already done with it. Thank you so much for always tuning in. It's always a pleasure. This is The Tackle, and The Tackle ends now. See you again on Monday and enjoy your weekend. Signing out. Bye-bye.